Okay, here we go. Full moon,
Yeah, right on the full moon.
right?
Aren't we cosmic? Yeah.
We're in.
Yeah, it's a full moon. It's a partial eclipse. You'd have to go to Easter Island if you wanted to see it, which might be, a bit of a trek. Um, so it's not over our heads.
Right, just like the eclipse in April that we had, that Aries.
Oh, that was, yeah, but lunar eclipses, this is a lunar eclipse, not a solar eclipse. So I don't know if they happen more frequently or not overhead. Anyway, we're not going to see the eclipse.
Okay, but we know we can feel it, that's for sure. It's a full moon in Pisces.
It's a full moon in Pisces. The moon is very close to Neptune.
Mhm.
Um, the sun is kind of on its own. Uranus is maybe sextiling the moon and trining the sun. So it's a bit, and then Pluto would be sextiling the moon and trining the sun as well. So these are heavy hitting planets, but um those are, supportive, empowering aspects.
Yeah, this is quite positive. For
Yeah,
like, we've got the trines of the sun in Virgo with Uranus,
Uranus,
Taurus, and then Pluto in Capricorn.
right? So it's a grand trine, really.
It's
So it's
exciting.
a kite. This full moon creates what's called a kite. So it's a grand, I don't know if I can draw this on a grand trine and then an opposition. So it looks like a kite.
Right. Okay. And so actually, Adrian, our good friend, our friend of Planetary Pictures, did text me that yesterday and say, "What do you think of this transit?" And I'm like, "Why don't I ask Julie?"
You're gonna have to figure this out without me one day. Um, I think it's positive. It's certainly a positive picture. I don't know, what's happening. There's always good things happening and bad things happening.
Sure.
I think we're in a very difficult year because of the Jupiter, as I keep saying, thanks to my daughter, the goddess Anoia just seems to be casting her sparkles on everybody. Um, and that Jupiter square Saturn, for anybody who's caught in it, which could be many, many of us, there's a lot of stuff that's, hard to work out. And I mean, it can be a lot of little stuff,
Mhm. Mhm.
like having to call someone back to confirm something, but you have to find your book to look up if you, and the, right? So
Mhm.
all the distractions, the overload of information, all that stuff
Mhm.
is really showing up in Jupiter and Gemini squaring Saturn in Pisces. So this full moon is a bit of a calm in the midst of a lot of anxious um, things that don't seem to be adding up or working out.
Yes, actually, you seem to be describing my experience of the last week.
Right. And you had a experience of grace in all of that.
Yes, I did. Jupiter, which it was just killing me with details and overstimulation of my nervous system to the point where, that feeling where you're just irritated with like anything makes you irritated. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to take a break. I have to take a time out because I don't want to lose friends. I have to go somewhere. So I drove up to the beach and Wasaga Beach, which is beautiful. And I was standing in the water. I just put my feet in the water and I looked up and the sunset was just like glowing this beautiful pink and orange globe. And I felt like, oh, hello. And so it was just me and staring
Yeah.
at the sun. So I felt like I was sort of the moon, although the moon was just behind me in the way that,
Yeah.
that around this time, the equinox, the sun and the moon are equal. So I could feel the moon behind me and the sun was there. And it was just like looking at me, it was kind of like, oh, me? And
Yeah.
I look down and there's like these little minnows swimming around my feet.
Ah,
And there's just this like show of the sun going down and casting its light across the blue water. And it was just so peaceful.
so the sun was setting, the moon was rising, your Mars was rising with the moon,
Mhm.
and all the little sea creatures were gathering around you. And those minnows, did they nibble on your feet a little bit?
They
They,
just touched them
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, they just touched them. Yeah. That's so sweet.
And Pisces, my little fish at my feet, because feet are the part of Pisces. So I was like,
Yeah,
I'm actually being my Mars and Pisces right now with my feet.
yeah. Uh-huh. What
And
more do you need? That's astrology in action.
it really chilled me out. I feel like I might make it.
Likely you will. Actually, so we wanted to talk about Mars.
Yes. Yes. Mars is getting ready to go into retrograde.
Yeah, well, it doesn't actually go retrograde till December 6th, but it goes into the shadow of the retrograde. And that I think we could say that the official shadow of Mars retrograde begins with the Sun Mars square on October 14th, I think. Yeah, Sun squares Mars on October 14th. But it's actually a couple of days earlier that Mars hits the 17 degrees of Cancer. So the shadow, so when Mars is retrograde, it has a whole dance that it does. Like there's drama in the sky. And the drama begins to set itself up with the shadow going in.
Mm-hmm. And that is why we'd like to announce now to everybody that we're going to be doing an AMA, Ask Me Anything. That means Julie and I.
No, it means us. Yes, it means ask us anything. It should be an AUA.
AUA, yes, but AMA sounds better. So we're going to put a link down below if you would like to sign up for it. It's October 19th after the void of course moon that day at 7 p.m. So you can sign up for it. There's going to be a fee this time, but it's very small. And you can join us together and we're going to talk very nitty gritty about the Mars retrograde. And you can ask personal questions about how, what you can expect and
Yeah, and you can ask personal questions because the thing that makes astrology come alive is personal. Like, when you're standing in the water and the fish are at your feet and you go, oh my God, full moon in Pisces, that's you'll never forget that in a way, and you can contemplate it and meditate on it in so many ways, so the personal is good when we're doing things like this. And the Mars retrograde it's in Leo. It's going to go retrograde in Leo. It's going to retrograde back to Cancer, and it's going to go direct again. And essentially, it's going to cover the same landscape, the astrological real estate, the same location as Pluto has been in for a number of years, since just before COVID.
right.
So it packs a bit of a punch there, the Mars retrograde. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a very pivotal time because it's going to cover over the US elections, which everybody is, not everybody, a lot of people.
And the inauguration, right? The election and the inauguration right in there. Yeah.
Right. So it's going to directly affect the world in a very, not that Mars affects the world, it's going to reflect what's happening, but it's a oracle into those types of things. So people can ask some questions about those dates too if they want, but it's not going to be
Yeah,
focused.
for sure. We can discuss world events for sure. I mean, world events are outrageous and very they do not disappoint. But I'm just saying it's okay to also have personal questions. But yes, we can talk about the election. We can talk about all the things that are going on. But I didn't think it was right to have a AMA, let's say, about the election or what's going on in the Middle East, because astrology, in a weird way, it doesn't take sides. It just lays out planetary pictures,
Right.
right? And So if we approach our own lives, but also, I mean, we have a great investment in our own lives, but if we approach the world in that way, we can use astrology to see more clearly what's unfolding. Yeah. You know, in a kind of, I don't know if the word is neutral, but it's just information up there in the sky, and it's what we do with it that makes it come alive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really helpful right now in terms of um, meaning, our own personal meaning in life. It's not given to us by somebody else. It's something that we discover within ourselves. And the symbols of the planets and houses and the signs help us, as you've taught us, the keys are the keys to unlock our inner meanings and our inner what things mean to us, our inner narrative, right?
So I have to tell you a little astro story for my morning. So I'm teaching a class this morning on Jupiter, just Jupiter. And as I was thinking about what I've been preparing the notes and stuff, I was thinking, wow, it's really interesting that astrologers have come a long way in terms of what we do with astrology, but we rarely look at the sky,
Yeah.
right? We rarely actually see what's happening in the sky. There's too much light pollution and whatever. And, everybody's going about their business and they don't remember to look up. So I thought, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go out and look at the sky. So I walk out on my back deck and there's Jupiter. There's Jupiter up at the midheaven, and there's Mars. And it's like, wow, I'm having this thought, and then I'm going out and it's right there on the midheaven. And it was interesting because I sat there for a while and I realized that the sun was rising, and that when the sun rises, Jupiter will disappear from the sky, right? Because the sun's light is so bright. So there's Jupiter feeling like, it's in charge of the world. And there's the sun saying, well, yeah, but I'm coming. So I thought, it's really interesting because the story that I could tell about that, I could tell a dominator story. I could tell a story that the sun comes and fiercely burns its light, and so Jupiter is defeated by the sun, and so is Mars, right? But I could tell a completely different story, which is that the sun comes, to warm that, like there's a benevolent energy from the sun which comes, and that Jupiter, in grace and appreciation bows to the sun, but not in subjugation,
Right.
right? Jupiter leaves its gifts, yes. And it just was so uh interesting. And then one of the people in the group had the sun, she was born when the sun was setting, and Jupiter was at the bottom of the chart. But if you moved it around throughout the day, which astrologers do, you would see that when the sun rose, it was the same exact picture, right?
Oh, wow. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, it was fascinating to me to have those connections. So it's not so much that the sun squaring Jupiter means this. It's
Right.
how and I can't, and it's not like Pollyanna. It's not like I can say, oh, well, the sun square Jupiter is a blessing. It's not. A square is a square. It's a challenge.
Right.
But I can, yeah, I can encourage that challenge one way, another way, or even another way.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of our shifting of consciousness comes from how we see things, right? What we perceive
Absolutely.
is. We have to accept what is. What is what is, right? A square is a square.
Right. And a lot of what frustrates people when they're trying to learn astrology is they want to know what it means.
Yeah.
They want to know what the sun square Jupiter means. They don't want to contemplate what it means.
This is such a good point. Yes.
It's really important. It's really important because the more, we live in such a world that's so polarized and divisive, right? Everybody, you know, spits fire from their own little corner. And astrology doesn't actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have a corner. It's a big circle.
Right. Yeah, and there's a way that, part of I think what we suffer from is disconnection from nature, from ourselves, from and the planets are part of nature. The planets are a part of us. And so when
Yeah,
dancing with them, when we're, in the water with them, when we go out in the morning and see them interacting, there is a joy, like an inner sense of expansiveness when we realize we're in connection with them. You're like,
right.
hey, we're doing this down here, like
Yeah.
it encourages that sense of connection, that we're missing. So I think you're right, though. We have to really, the perspective and the framework that we hold with it. And I applaud your ability to remain calm when people keep asking you for a meaning and you have to explain the larger experience of astrology. You do need to contemplate, you need to
Well,
understand.
I'm interested in both. I'm interested in the little minnows biting at your feet as much as I'm interested in the fact that, someone tried to shoot Donald Trump again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Uranus square his Mars, if anybody's concerned about what it was. And the full moon squaring his,
Was it a different picture? Was
well,
it
the full moon eclipse is squaring his sun and moon.
okay?
So he was born at a full moon, and I think it was a full moon eclipse. And this full moon eclipse is making an exact square to it.
Mm.
So maybe he shouldn't have been out playing golf in such a easily uh breached, location.
He
He
would do
might have been a little careful. Um
he would do well
uh
to have a
yeah.
for sure. He probably needs one at this time. But
If I was a person in the spotlight of the world, I would definitely use astrology to navigate my whereabouts. Yeah.
um, well, I think they used to in the old days.
Hmm. Trudeau could use an astrologer about now.
I did hear a rumor, but I, of course, don't. It's a rumor that Chrétien, remember the liberal leader,
Yeah. He was great. Yeah.
really liked him. He was always caught on a hot mic moment, um, saying something really bad states or something. Uh,
Yeah.
there was a rumor that his wife consulted astrologers a lot.
I'm sure there's a lot of astrological consultations going on. I can't say that there are any of them consulting me, but um, I think Justin could use a little astrological advice because Neptune's going to square his sun. Like Jupiter's still trining his Saturn, so he feels powerful, but that's going to be over, and Neptune's going to square his sun,
What?
which is not so powerful.
Your
Yeah.
Saturn is powerful?
Sorry? No, Pluto trine Saturn.
Yeah. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry, if I said square, I deeply apologize. Yeah.
No, no. But Pluto trine Jupiter, yeah, I get that. Um,
Pluto trines Saturn. Pluto in Aquarius at 0 degrees trining Trudeau's Saturn in Gemini on the midheaven.
right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we could take this so many directions, but we'll save the politics, like you said. They do grab us out of our sense of self sometimes. But what do you see coming for the equinox on when the sun moves from Virgo into?
Well, I think this full moon is got, mostly it's got Neptune's name on it. And it feels to me like Neptune is about this real essential sense of the feeling that we all have that we're caught in an undertow and it's hard to like get going. It's hard to push things along. So then along comes the equinox. Excuse me, and the equinox is it's one of the 4 cardinal points of the year. So it's a powerful moment. Symbolically, you can read about it at my insights. I always write something as profound as I can find at the moment. Um, I think the equinox in Libra is so it's the day and the night. It's not based on the constellations or anything like that. It's based on the light on the planet. It's based on the fact that it's one of the 2 days of the year when the day and the night are equal.
Mhm.
Right? So that's why we do tropical astrology because it's earth-based. So it's you know, ideally it's a moment of balance. And then from that minute on, from that moment on, the days are getting noticeably, we're descending into the dark, right? Libra is the beginning, and it takes us into Scorpio, and that takes us into Sag, and by that time it's pretty dark.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's the turn of the season. I think in terms of astrological events between now and, let's say, the full moon in October, there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot. The next big, well, there's an annular eclipse on October 2nd at 10 degrees of Libra. But it's not, it's conjunct Mercury, it's close to Mercury, but it's not, again, it doesn't have a whole lot of, there's not a whole lot of astrological energy there, I think, or at least I don't see it. I don't see that it's that, you know, the full moon today, that's an eclipse, is in Pisces, and the North and South Node are going to leave Aries and Libra and go into Pisces and Virgo next January, coming up in January. So this eclipse is Pisces and Virgo, but the next eclipse, the solar eclipse on October 2nd, is Libra and Aries. And, you know, the worst thing about that is it's just war.
Mhm.
Libra and Aries is, you know, if they don't make peace, they make war, they fight. So I guess you could say the equinox is the dream of peace. And then the new moon eclipse is taking us into whatever we're doing with that dream. It'd be nice if we could dream ourselves into peace, but we'll see.
Well,
So
as you're saying, the nodes that have been in Aries and Libra for the last year or so, which have been all about war, and I think they went in around last year.
I think they went in, I'm just checking, but I remember when they went in, I thought, oh, there's going to be some escalation of war, and that happened. So they went into Aries and Libra in just after the middle of July of 2023.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, then we had October 7th, right? So yeah, it all ratcheted up. And it will go into, they'll go into Pisces and Virgo on around, it looks like the 12th of January. So there's a lot happening there besides that, but that's that'll be a different theme. But it won't mean the war has gone away. But it might, it could. I don't know. Yeah.
The dream of it going away, maybe.
Well, we're fighting for a lot of different things right now in terms of what it means to be human, and
Yeah.
that's part of it. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of things that are happening, even though this full moon feels like, well, sorry, just let me, I had a thought about Neptune. Is like Neptune has been just sitting at the last degrees of Pisces for a while now, going, you know, forward and retrograde and forward and retrograde. And it is it's interesting because as it's at the end of Pisces, we're also entering sort of the age of Aquarius, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like a double ending of the Pisces era in a way when Neptune leaves Pisces.
Yeah, and then Pluto finally gets into Aquarius and Neptune goes into Aries, and yeah, we're definitely kicking and screaming, but we're on our way there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just it could this full moon be a precursor to that,
Well,
or
I think it's a precursor to the nodes in Pisces and Virgo next year. And I think the nodes in Pisces and Virgo are a lot of things we don't want to think about that Neptune in Pisces has brought us, like superbugs and pandemics and, you know, those kinds of things. But it's also the opportunity to care for each other, right? Pisces and Virgo have to do with service
Mm.
and sacred service,
Yeah.
so healing people, feeding people, housing people, taking care of basic needs, but understanding it as a sacred duty rather than as an obligation, or a charity. Charity is a pretty tricky thing, right? Because people hate receiving charity, and people who give charity, it just allows them to, feel that they're better off.
Right.
And there's a serious need on the planet to understand that if we don't take care of each other, like if I'm good to someone, that benefits me. All right.
That's a really nice way to say it, rather than I'm not better than them. We're all like, we all need to help. We're all part of this humanity.
Yeah, and it's really hard for people when they feel they are receiving charity. It's demeaning. And it shouldn't be that it's demeaning if we feed people who don't have food of their own, or if we take care of people. It's not it's not like my favorite joke, what's the difference between God and a doctor, is that God doesn't think he's a doctor, right? No offense to doctors, it's just one of my favorite jokes. But it's like, when you have a doctor who talks to you like you're a human and they're a human, it's so much easier, it's so much better,
So much
right?
easier. Yeah, it's refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah. And they want to be doctors.
Yeah.
They're not being doctors because they're better humans, they're being doctors because they were called to do that. And
Yeah.
so, like, when I broke my leg and I was in, emerge, and I was in the ambulance and everything, I said, "Oh, this is Pisces. I'm the opportunity for you guys to take care of me and do something good, and that's good for you too." I'm sure they thought I was crazy, but that's Pisces. So then I was in the hospital. I thought, wow, this is pure. This is, Pisces' hospitals. Like, wow, am I ever in Pisces land? Because nobody cared who I was or what I did, or, it's like, you're just one of everybody else who's suffering here in the hospital, right? So it's humbling, but it's humbling in a good way. And the nodes in Pisces and Virgo are going to ask us to think of what that means on both sides of that.
Both sides of that. Yeah. That's a good contemplation. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
good.
It's jumping ahead though, because that's not till January.
I don't know. I find it refreshing to talk about. I like to think about Jupiter and Gemini moving on.
Oh yeah, they don't move on until later in the, until spring. Yeah, we're stuck with them for a while.
Although I shouldn't be excited about the nodes switching, because now they're going to square all my Sag planets. So anyway, we'll deal with that
Oh,
when
I beg to say that I don't think that aspects from the nodes are something to add to your pile of anxieties.
Okay.
Planets make aspects and they bring events, but the nodes don't square. The nodes don't do that by transit, I don't think.
Okay.
I
That's
just can't wrap my head around the fact that, because they're shadow planets, they're not planets.
your
They have
point.
no substance.
Your points. Okay.
Mhm.
Take it off my list then.
Please
Okay.
take it
Thank
off your list.
Okay, well, I think that should serve us until after we probably won't do another planetary pictures until after the AUA on October 19th, unless there's something irresistible to get on to talk about,
Right.
then we will. But October 19th, please sign up, and I'll put links for Julie's monthly insights as well as my services, and we will see whoever wants to come and talk about astrology on October 19th at 7.
And if you have a hard time signing up, because we are asking for contribution support, and you don't want to use the button, you can just e-transfer.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so
always
that's fine.
email Julie or I if there's any problems too.
Yeah, so don't think you have to use the buy now button from PayPal. In fact, yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Sarah. Take care.